get the meeting started. 7:01, 7:02, something like that.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, minutes. Everybody received minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody have any issues with minutes that were submitted? If not, I'd like a resolution to approve the minutes for the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
Mr. Harrington here, I don't see him yet, so I guess we'll put him on a little bit later.
Okay.
What's that?
Alan, could you talk a little louder, please?
Sure. The microphone is in the back, so if you're having a problem hearing me, speak up. Okay, you're on there, right?
Yes, I am.
I guess we'll start with Bill. Why don't we get you out of the way? I know you've got an early day tomorrow, so.
Okay, not too much going on, just update on the storm damage we had last Tuesday. We had a lot of damage.
Speak up a little bit if you would, Bill. So that they
Had a lot of damage last Tuesday, June 8th on Franklin Road and South Montgomery Road. That night we got called out. Got it repaired enough for safe travel, and then the next day, Wednesday and Thursday, the 9th and 10th, we got them both finished up to back to normal. The new truck actually came in today that we had ordered, the International, the 6500. Looks good, everything, nice truck.
Good, good.
Other than that, we plan on oil installing today, but because of the weather, we're gonna postpone it till Wednesday. So, other than that, we don't have much.
You had given us a list of roads. Do you want to just quickly read through that list of what you're, just for anybody that's interested?
Vermilion Road, which is off of Carroll Hinckley. Carroll Hinckley Road. I've got a list, Diane, I could give you if you want.
We have the list. The board got the copy.
Okay.
I just wanted to say if you just want to say briefly about anything about it.
Yeah, Carroll Hinckley Road, New Kingston Mountain, Lower Meeker Hollow. We're gonna do Tom Hinckley Road, which is off of Upper Meeker Hollow. We're gonna do Reynolds Cross Road, West Settlement, and Squire Hill Road.
Okay.
Then the next round, which would be in sometime in July, we've got more roads. We're gonna do Charcoal Road in Grand Gorge, Burrows Road, Vegan Mountain Road, and Car George Road.
Okay. Anybody on the board have anything for Bill? Other than that?
The truck we're purchasing outright, right?
Correct.
Did you get an invoice? Cause I
No,
didn't,
they'll be
so-
mailing it, he told me today. We'll be getting something from Navistar in the mail with the registration papers and everything.
Bill, is that all set up to go with
Yes.
standards and everything?
Yep, we had a sander that had gotten 2 years ago, or last year for it. But yep, it's all plumbed for a sander, has a plow on it, it's ready to go as soon as you register it.
And it's here now?
Yep.
Nice.
And you'll be using it for summer too, for hauling?
Yeah, yep,
And then,
yep. It's kind of a mid-sized truck, so
Yeah, so you use it for everything.
yeah.
Okay, anything else with Bill? Stephanie, do you have anything?
No, you know, what I reported in our report, you know, we filed the roll, the tentative roll was filed, and, we had a very light grievance season. In fact, we probably won't see a lot of people until we do the townwide revaluation in 2023. And as I mentioned in earlier meetings, our equalization rate was formally set by ORPS at 90%. So we went from 100% of value, which we have been since 2015, to 90% of value, and that's a result of this very hot seller's market right now, equating to too much daylight between assessed values and sale prices. So that's what happens. And in 2023, we'll throw everything back in the pot again, and we'll go back to 100%.
Anything for Stephanie? Anybody?
Maybe.
received a report from the planning board, or we didn't? Diane? A written report?
From the planning
We didn't
board.
get anything from that, I didn't see anything, I didn't think we did.
Yeah, just the minutes. They're on the website.
And for anybody that is interested, the minutes are posted on the website of their meeting, so they're available. Okay, building and grounds, I don't know too much right now. Ed, do you know anything? Mike?
I went down and looked there where, Richie put in stuff.
Yeah, I talked to him, he said he was gonna go ahead and make those repairs that we needed, so.
And I even, there was a fuss there on the bathroom that wasn't mentioned there, but apparently he's already done that
Yeah, okay.
Well, where is this?
in Civic Center.
And the plans are there?
Yes, I should mention, we do have a preliminary set of plans for our new town hall, if anybody'd be interested in taking a look at them after the meeting. They're available for review and they'll be here in the town hall. Again, we're hoping to very shortly do an open house up there so we can kind of show people what the plans are and what the changes are that we're gonna be making to the building and show the inside of the building. We'll probably schedule that sometime in late July or August. By then, we should have maybe a few changes to these designs, but it's generally pretty close, so. Anything else? Anybody have anything else on building ground stuff? Okay. Water and sewer, don't have a real lot. We do have a few leaks around that we're working on getting taken care of. There's one actually right up here in front of the country store that we discovered earlier on through listening equipment when we were doing some other stuff, and now it's surfaced, so there is water there all the time, and that'll be taken care of. I think, Chris, are you on there?
Yes, I am, Alan.
Give us a quick update, if you would, on what's going on.
Sure. Hubble has been contracted to do that work in front of the country store. We're just waiting on some parts to arrive. That should be happening in the next couple of days. Then we'll have to give a few days notice for the residents in the town, because we will have to shut down. We'll have to shut some valves and isolate that so that we can dig it up and make the repair. As far as Denver Water goes, Denver Water is entering one of its final phase. We've got all the piping in the basement replaced. Now it's just hooking up the telemetry and the controls. That should be happening fairly soon. And they've broken ground outside of town for the new construction of well 3. And that's basically what I have for you.
Do you have anything when stocks are gonna be fixed?
That's another one that Chris has you've been involved with, the one up at Stock. Have you got a schedule on that for when they're gonna do that work, or?
For what? Say that again.
In Grand Gorge?
For Greg Stock, we talked about that. We know there's 2 leaks in Grand Gorge, one by the Civic Center and one at Greg Stock's. We have to get that one at the Civic Center dug up and fix the curb valve so that we can trace the line to the house. Once we have that, then I can call on Rural Water, New York Rural Water, and we will do both places, locate the leak at both places at the same time.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have anything else for Chris? We do have, you'll see in your letters package, we do have a request to hook up to the water and sewer from Mr. Umansky, which is down on County Route 41. I don't believe we've received any official drawings from him yet, or any kind of a design. Is that correct?
Well, for he's in both the water and the sewer district, but there's no stubs that were ever installed for the water or the sewer. So for DEP, they need to have a detailed set of plans from him for the sewer, which we're trying to get from him.
Okay.
So, and for the water, of course, we have to tap the water line, but
Right,
that's at his expense.
right. You're familiar with that, Chris?
Yes, I am. I just got contacted the other day by this guy. Now he wants to put a quote cabin there and still hook up to the water and sewer, which in his land contract, he's gonna have to read that because I know I signed the same exact land contract and I could not have that. So it had to be a structure. But as far as the paperwork, that has to be done through DEP in the county.
So that's basically an ongoing project. I don't think we can approve anything yet until we have more information. Or can we?
Why can't you?
Well, he's been told to reference his deed. But that's a civil matter. I mean, we can't enforce.
We're not, as a town, we
what's
can't
in
be
the deed
involved in the deed.
that I know of, but
So that's an issue between him and, that's a civil issue, and the other owners in that development, that's correct.
Why can't you give him, we can't give him authority to even hook on the water? To start that or not?
can. I mean, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, because
but-
that's not to do with billing, it's just get hooked onto the water.
But the sewer approval has to come through the city,
That
correct?
has the plan,
Yeah.
his plan, like,
Right,
when they hooked up the yoga studio, they had to submit a plan.
right, right. So we can, I guess, tonight, we can pass a resolution to allow him to hook onto the water.
Give him the water right away,
He is in the town water.
because I think he's got a right of way for driveway now too.
Yeah, he did, I believe he did get it for that, so.
Yeah,
Hey, change that a little bit.
I talked to him about that today.
Oh, okay.
I told him I didn't think it would be a good idea to put his water line under his driveway where he wanted to put it.
No, that's not a very good idea.
So this is,
Well, my question is if he decides to put a camping trailer there, can he still hook up to the sewer and water?
we got one right up behind us that is.
But there's not a stipulation on the deed. I know what the stipulation.
No,
the
but
deeds
I
are
don't know
down
if
there.
Chris is asking if only if they put a camper there they can, or.
That's a deed infringement down there, not here. It's a whole different ballgame.
I understand that,
Okay.
That's, the problem is,
but I don't believe it's up to us to enforce what's in a deed.
yeah, we can't, we as a town, I don't think, can make a decision based on what the deed says.
Is
That's-
Kevin on there?
Yeah, no, I agree that it's not a town issue, you know, that the person's entitled to a water connection, entitled to a sewer connection.
And as far as his deed restrictions, that's totally.
That's not us, that's not
That's
us.
not us, right?
If his neighbors like to challenge him in court, they can,
Yeah.
but we won't.
Okay, and so he is listed on our resolutions, we'll do that later then. Anything else for water sewer? Chris, anything? I know Mike was gonna be here to discuss a little more about the new project and,
I don't have anything more unless Mike comes. He can update you on some other stuff that I may not know about.
Well, if he isn't here in the first 15 minutes, lock the door.
I don't know if that, you wanna discuss the, water issue. With your usage and-
we do have some issues that we talked about where we have several meters. Chris, I know you're aware of it, but we do have several situations where we have meters that are either not reading or we're getting zero readings when we shouldn't be.
Correct. I just received a box of 8 meters that I can start replacing things with.
Okay,
Um,
so you're gonna start working through that.
Yes,
If
yep.
we can get this-
I had to have the meters in hand before I could set anything up to go to people's houses.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, everybody received a copy of the building inspector's monthly report. We are, Diane and I were talking earlier, we do have a lot of old permits that we've talked about several times before that have never been cleared or never been finalized. We've been talking about trying to work out a way to start to get through that list, to try to recover what we can for some of these permits that have been open, some of them for many years, actually.
I thought we did something with that a couple of years ago or years.
We've talked about it several times, and kind of keeps coming up. We're gonna probably need to do some kind of a letter again, and then try to start working towards enforcing some of these old permits. Right now, the only thing we can do is when somebody requests a CO search, if it's, if the property's changing hands or something, we've been able to clear them up that way, but it's not always the quickest process, and there's a lot of them that are still outstanding that we need to work on, so. Diane and I have been talking about some possibilities that we'll bring up later on about what's gonna work and what way we can do that, so. Okay, community resources, we got Denise and Peg. Denise, you're here, why don't you give us a report of what you've got, so if you need anything. I know looks like you got a pretty busy schedule already.
Yeah, we're very, very busy, and lots of calls and inquiries, even with a full calendar. But we're doing pretty well at Curbside. We have 2 workers approved that will be interviewed for the CEO workforce later this month, so that'll be nice. We've had Girl Scouts at the park. You saw their community and having some meetings there and doing some weeding and that sort of thing, which is a great thing to get them involved. And just general maintenance. I'm starting to notice, we might need a few repairs here or there, smaller things, so I'll bring those to your attention when I can.
Okay. Okay, and Peg, I know you've got a few things to go over with us, so.
So I could barely hear Denise, nor could I hear any of you guys, so I'm just gonna jump in here. Denise, did you talk about how we met about the kitchen policy and that we'd like Mike and Dee to sit down with us?
Mike and Dee and I were gonna meet on Wednesday.
Okay.
I thought you wanted me to meet with them before we come.
Right. Okay, so just let me know if you need anything.
Okay.
And then we would like to plan some sort of ribbon cutting as per the state's request. So maybe you can touch base with Mike and Dee about how that might look when that happens. But people are inquiring about use, so I think we should get rocking and rolling here. And it sounds like you're right on track.
Well, I'm hoping we don't need a ribbon cutting before we can allow them to use it.
No. That's just state promo.
Okay.
You can allow anyone to use it. The DOH permit is in place. It can be used tomorrow if somebody needs it.
Well, once we have the contract, right?
Right, exactly. The contract and the procedure guidelines. So that being said, that's good news. The roof was completed and you should have in your packets sign off by Fred that he inspected it and the work was done satisfactorily. And moving on from there, there is an open round for the consolidated funding application, and we'd like to go in with 2 applications, one for planning for Grand Gorge under New York Main Street and one for construction for Roxbury. And the reason that we're going about it this way is that we have found that communities that have not participated in a New York Main Street fully and actively are better off going through the planning first. And then next year would be the construction application. And as you know, way back in 2005, under the inaugural round, Grand Gorge was the recipient of some facade improvement funds. But the participation wasn't where it needed to be for the state guidelines. So we'd like to spend 6 months planning for that application rather than going in for construction that may not get funded. Not that there's any guarantee for any funding, but Roxbury has been through 2 other successful New York Main Street programs. So they have a track record with this program. And I think considering that we have some activity actually right where you're sitting and next door for the food pantry and some other properties that could use a facelift and some real things going on here, that this would be an ideal time to go in for Roxbury. So you have 2 resolutions on the plate. We did hear, is Joe Resch there with you guys?
No.
Okay, Joe has been trying to coordinate getting the Grand Gorge folks together to meet and go over this, but he's not been having much luck, so we'll do a direct mail and just set a meeting date and see if there's interest. If there's not, then, you know, I don't know what more I can do. And again, we're working on doing the same for Roxbury, is sending out a email to all the businesses. I just wanted the resolutions passed, so I know that the town board is behind these applications before I do the outreach.
Good.
Any questions?
While we've got Peg on the phone, so she doesn't have to hang on until we do our resolutions, do you want to give me a resolution for both of these funding applications? Do we have to do them separately? Probably, huh?
Yes.
All right, we'll do a resolution for the planning application for the Hamlet of Grand Gorge.
Oh my god.
And if I can have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the second one is for the construction application for the Hamlet of Roxbury, following the previous planning that's been done there. It's a continuation of what's been done in the past. We also need a resolution for the $500,000 construction.
It's not, Alan, just for the record, it's not gonna be for that much. It's very seldom that they fund fully New York Main Street programs. But it's just, it says up to 500,000, that's the funding cap. But again,
Okay.
it's very seldom that we even request that much because there's not a lot of money in that pot. And so to have a competitive application, we have to keep things at something more palatable.
Okay. So can we have a resolution for that? Did I see one?
Yeah.
Macker? And a second?
I'll second.
And Ed, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Peg, while I've still got you on here, one thing else we wanted to talk about a little bit, this, and Dee as well. You're planning a meeting for Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for some community input on this American Rescue Plan Act that the federal government has put out. I know we talked last month about having a planning session with some local residents, and I believe you're doing that in Kirkside Park on the 6th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Anything else you wanted to talk about that? I will say that it's still, from everything that we've seen, there is still a lot of questions as far as how this money is going to be administered and what actually it's going to be able to be used for totally. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, but I don't think they've still come up with final decisions on a lot of this. Thank
Well,
you.
I can tell you, I was on the call today with the regional council, and tourism is certainly a viable use of funds. So that will be part of the conversation, I'm sure. We also did some substantial planning when we were applying for the DRI, which I'll review with the community who wasn't around for that participation process. And of course, I'm sure there'll be discussion about the comprehensive plan, which needs to be updated. So maybe I should start looking for funding to get that done. 5 years is usually the shelf life, but it really shouldn't be on the shelf. It should be a live doc. So there'll be opportunity to zoom in. We do have a speaker and a couple of wireless mics, so sound shouldn't be an issue. But remember, you know, face-to-face contact works the best. So if by any chance you can get there, we're really encouraging you to be out in the park at 6 o'clock on Wednesday night.
Anybody else on board? Do you have anything more to add to that? I know you've been spearheading this along with Peggy.
No.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
So am I dismissed, sir?
Do you have anything else that you would like to discuss with us,
I have
ma'am?
nothing else I'd like to discuss with you. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anybody from the public have any questions for Peg that we can help you with? I guess that's a no. Okay, thank you, Peg.
Thank you.
Next thing we need to discuss, Deanna and Macker have been working with the short-term rental committee for quite a while. We did just this evening put up on the website a draft that the committee has come up with. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so we, Alan put up the application form. These are just the drafts that we have, the application form, the regulations, and I just wanna say that the regulations, the committee did not talk about the permit, the application process, or the, enforcement and penalties. That was something that the lawyer, drafted up and put in there, so there needs to be more discussion on that. The committee did not agree on that or anything, but, essentially, this is what we came up with. There are some questions that we did ask the lawyer that we thought maybe, that would be some interesting, some of the background of how we're enforcing it and different stuff like that. So some good information for everyone to have. So, that is out there. What we want to do is, anybody has any comments or questions, please let us know. And we'll keep that out there for a month, and then we'll reconvene. We'll get back together and discuss the questions, comments that anybody has, and go from there.
Kevin, since you're on here, possibly you just want to give a brief synopsis of how the local law process works for anybody that's not familiar with it, as far as hearings and things like that.
Well, the process is, so once you have a local law that you wanna, the board decides it actually wants to consider, the board, will at that point schedule a public hearing. And that public hearing has to be noticed and has to take place within a certain number of days. And so usually we do it at one board meeting, we schedule the public hearing for the next board meeting. At the next board meeting, the board will listen to the public comment, and the board can act at the end of that public comment, decide to wait until the next board meeting. If the board decides that based on the public comment, they want to amend the law, then we have to go back and do a whole new public hearing. So there's several processes that we have to go through before it becomes a law.
So again, as we've reiterated several times, we are not trying to rush this through. The reason for putting this draft out was to give the public a month to comment on it and decide, and we'll address all the comments as we receive them. Comments need to be in writing so that the committee can look at them, whether it's an email or a letter, however. Once they've received all the comments and made any changes that the committee feels necessary, it will come back to the board and we'll make a decision as to whether we go forward with a public hearing, and we'll schedule a public hearing to look at it as a law. So that's the process. I know we have a few people that have questions and would like to speak on the short-term rental and a couple issues. So I just want to briefly read something to everyone. We are going to open the meeting up at this time to discussion from residents. Jessica, who has been managing our website or our Zoom meeting, will allow people to get into the meeting with comments and questions. We do have one request to speak from here concerning the Hughes Energy Project. I will allow Frank to go on first if you just want to state your name for the record and say what you want to say about that.
My name is Frank Lippman, and I really know very little bit about this energy thing. There just was this article in the Catskill Chronicle on May 28th. I'm really interested in information as to what, where, and how.
Okay, we have, as I mentioned to you briefly before the meeting, at this point, this project has been basically put in the hands of the DEC as a lead agency because it is a permitting process for a solid waste facility. The DEC, I believe, and Mike, I know you've been closer to this than me because you've been covering it. I believe that they're in the process of reviewing the draft EIS that was submitted and making comments. And that's a process that can be a few months before they go back and forth. Once they get that so that it's acceptable by all of the concerned parties, of which the Roxbury Planning Board is one, the next step would be to move into public hearings. And depending on the complexity of the project, the way I understand it, they schedule one or more public hearings to discuss the project. And, this is a very large project. It's something that's probably not going to happen real quickly given the stakeholders involved, including the New York City DEP and the DEC. So it's something that's probably a ways out, at least in my opinion. But with that being said, the only request to speak that I had earlier today was from Lucia Strutt. I think we'll allow her to go first, if that's okay with you, Jess.
Yeah, then I have Jason and Robin.
Okay. I will say we're going to keep this discussion period to 15 minutes or less. So please try to keep your comments brief. We have many other things to go over tonight at the meeting. And I don't think any of us want to be here all night long.
Thanks, Alan. First, thanks for forwarding that link on the STR documents. I didn't get a chance to read everything, but question on local manager. So, like in my case, I manage with I have like a team of contractors, I guess, because I have the barn too. So, what is your definition of a local manager?
It's in the definitions. So it's instead of like the owner who, you know, that's not there all the time, they have a local manager who can be present and handles the day-to-day operation. It doesn't have to, if you do it yourself, you don't have to have a local manager.
Okay.
It's basically a contact person in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
So we don't have to bust, if fire department or EMS doesn't have to bust doors down.
Okay, so the owner can be the manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Jason is next.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I don't want to make too much out of this because I think it was more venting than anything else. But we received a phone call message from someone who obviously is against the idea of short-term rentals. More, like I said, more on the venting, but potentially a little bit on the intimidating side, saying Roxbury does not want short-term rentals. And if you don't understand that, understand that. I don't make much of it, but it is obviously very inappropriate. And my main question is beyond is we'll contact other people in the short-term rental community, see if they've received these phone calls. It's more important to see if anyone on the committee has received them, or if there's been pressure in the background put on members of the committee, because at the end of the day, you know, we are part of this community, and if this needs to be very transparent, which you guys have been very good so far, but for us to want to go along and support, we have to believe that there's no undue pressure or say poisoning of the well going on from members who are obviously very much against the idea of Airbnb and that type of thing.
If they were against it, they should be here. Okay. Everybody has an opinion, and it's really sad that nobody wants to see things go upward and forward. And as I said, if you got a problem, we meet here every month, second Monday.
Mac, this is Lucia. I'm just going to add to Jason. I'm sorry, I just cut someone off. I was actually threatened at my house by a person. So I just want to just tell you guys, you know, what's going on. And it was unfortunate because I was by myself at the time, but I just wanted to let you guys know.
No, I mean, nobody, I mean, as for me, I don't know if Rich and Terry are and Esther, I've not had any, we are all in favor of that in the STRs. We just want to make it safe for everybody, so no.
I have not received any threats or any comments, but I do find it very concerning that some people are directly reaching out to Jason and Lucia like that. It's, yeah, like Macker said, you know what? Come to the town board meeting and share your concerns. Like, and if you know who that is, I don't know, maybe you should share in the meeting who this person is, because this is highly inappropriate.
I mean, from my side, it was an older woman. I don't know the name. I'm sure if I played it, probably someone would recognize it. I didn't want to go that far, as opposed, unless I kept it in case of damage to the house or if they continue to escalate. But barring that, you know, like I said, I didn't take this as threatening in my regard, as opposed to more venting anger. But I thought it was something that had to be mentioned, especially if there was this kind of stuff going on to other people, or if people were putting pressure behind the scenes, you know, to, you know, about this topic in general.
As I said, it's everybody's right to have an opinion. It's just not right to attack other people about the opinion. I have no problem being on a committee that if you want to attack me, I'll sit down and talk with you, no problem. So won't D. But it's wrong to go attack other people with SDRs. Just good to have one.
And just, I think it's, you know, I'm from email conversations. I think it's just, you guys have done a very good job of this, but again, as much as you can to, whenever this topic comes up, we are part of the community. We want the best for the community. Obviously, we run businesses. There's going to be positives and negatives to any business in the area. But, you know, it's just that the idea behind this is to make things safer and better, not to eliminate or, you know, that effectively many of us have been part of the community for a long time. So
you also got to remember, it's easy to be a bully behind a screen.
Yeah,
that's one of the worst things that can happen nowadays. But to actually have a conversation with somebody or a phone call or in person, that bullying somebody else, I just don't get into that.
Okay, well, I won't take any more time. I just want to make you guys aware.
And by all means, if anybody else that's on the call has had this type of appropriate behavior, you're more than welcome to contact the authorities and make a record of that, because that's not acceptable. No. Especially if somebody's coming on your property to talk with you or threaten you in any way. You have every right to call the authorities about that. So,
give my number.
Robin, do you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you. I have, just to jump in for a minute on that same stream, is I have heard a lot of comments to me, but not any kind of threats. And I think, Lucia, you should consider making this public, and Jason as well, because then the town board can come out and say how inappropriate it is and that they won't tolerate that kind of behavior. But to go on with the regulations themselves, I just had a few questions. I know that you're probably not going to be able to answer these at this time, but things that I would like you to consider. And that is when the law would go into effect, how long would it get to get a permit? And then how do you deal with unwarranted complaints or complaints in general? I'm a little concerned about how that's going to be handled, because we know that we have a lot of people not a lot, but we have some people in the area who are not happy about this situation. So we wouldn't want them making false claims, and we would want to make sure that those were dealt with fairly.
We have, like I said, we have not even looked at the regulations or the penalties or violations, right. But I mean, that's something we can think about.
We certainly, and I will say this about that, we are not, as a town board, looking to be the policeman on this thing, as far as when somebody has a party at their house and they call us or call somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning to have it stopped. The state police and the sheriff's department are the people that handle those kind of things. when it comes to a report, I think when we get to the final discussions about exactly how this will be enforced through the town, that's probably a decision for them more than now. Again, the town is not equipped to be the person that's gonna go out and solve party problems in the middle of the night or solve emergencies like that. That needs to go to either police or fire or whoever the emergency is gonna be.
Well, I
As far as-
understand. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were saying.
All I was gonna say is, as far as enforcement action, we really are not at that stage as far as who from the community, the town is gonna be responsible for that and how that's gonna be structured. That's something that's kind of, we're still looking at that process.
But if you're going to put in a law, then you need to, and we need to know what all the strictures of that law are, because
Absolutely.
okay.
You absolutely do, and when we get to that point, it will certainly be made public before the law is ever put for a public hearing.
Okay, the other thing to think about is if it's an unwarranted complaint, how it is resolved. And then the other thing is the timing of those complaints, because we all live in a seasonal place and our Airbnb businesses are also seasonal. So if we are shut down or anything because of an unwarranted complaint, we can lose a lot of our income.
That's certainly understandable, and I'm sure that the committee will take that into consideration and the board when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything on the short-term rental stuff, or Jess, do you have any other people to speak?
Nope, looks like that's it.
Okay, with that being said, thank you very much for everybody. I see Mike Harrington came in. I'll let you give us a brief discussion. We did hear from Chris quite a lot about the other projects, but if you want to give us an overview.
Keyword.
Brief.
No pressure, just, you know,
Just brief.
just, you know.
Mainly, I guess, on the status and the progress of our water plant up here that we're working on.
They have.
Call them every day.
All right, so on the Denver Water Project, we're getting a little bit closer. Hubble wrapped up their, I don't know, did Chris go over all this already?
No.
Okay.
We just talked about some water leak
Okay.
issues and stuff.
Hubble wrapped up their rehabilitation work at the pump house. That's gonna open the door to Mike Hinckley finishing his controls work. I know there were some complaints about some of the restoration work that Hubble had done, and I think they just didn't actually work. I understand that work, that restoration work has been brought up to snuff at this point. So Hubble has submitted a pay application. That's for your consideration tonight. There is a fair amount of retainage held back. They hold back 5%. So if there are issues, lingering issues with the restoration, there's plenty of money held to take care of that.
Is this pretty much the final requisition for the Denver project to date?
Well,
Is there going to be
item
more?
1D is that there is the remaining items to consider. We talked about looking at making some improvements at the Wellfield access roads. There are other miscellaneous distribution items that we could do. My guess is that we probably won't do anything else in the distribution system. I'm sure everyone's just tired of stuff going on. There are service valves that the association asked to be replaced in the crawl spaces because some of the units, instead of service valves outside, they had them in the crawl spaces. So that's still a consideration, and that we could do that. Given that that is probably the easiest piece to do, I was going to suggest we wait to do those last in case we find we need dollars for something else. One of the notes on number 1A, it said some additional work was needed for that piping replacement. So stuff happens, and you know, I hate to spend that money on those valves that could be rather easily replaced otherwise, you know, on an ongoing basis. So, and another issue that I don't know if Chris Mattice mentioned, there's one or more of the check valves in the well field seem to be failing at Denver, and he is he's going to get with Titan to see if they can help diagnose that. It may only be one check valve that's leaking, and they all basically drain back through that one. So there's some investigation that needs to happen there. And then again, Chris is going to head that up with Titan, who knows the most about your wells there. They've done work there for eons. In terms of those well field access roads, the one issue is that it seems like DEP is looking at stuff a little different now in terms of permitting. So we want to make sure that if we pull the trigger on that, we don't get into a hornet's nest with some sort of permitting. So we're going to just double check that before we get rolling on that. So that's Denver. Any questions on that? Okay, Roxbury, Grand Gorge, Evergreen Mountain Construction's work. Their contract 3 out of, there's 4 at the Wellfield site. They've gotten started within the past 2 or 3 weeks. I think they're getting ready to have the foundation placed, concrete foundation poured. Prior to that, they've been working on getting the piping underneath, that's going to be underneath the building, set and put in place before the foundation work is done. Yeah, it's slow going, but it's getting going now. I think we all know that Evergreen's finishing up a project in West Conesville that's under a severe time crunch, and so I think that distracted them from getting going any sooner than they really did here. And of course, everyone else's work, the electrician, the plumber, and the HVAC guy all follow Evergreen's work. You have a pay request from Evergreen to consider. It's for a lot of stored materials that are sitting down there at the site, for some initial bonds and insurance costs and that sort of thing. I recommend payment of that, or at least submitting it for the drawdown. But one thing I just did want to say is that I've mentioned it for the past couple meetings. They're not quite at the point where their minority women business plan has been approved. So we'll get it submitted, and there may be a little delay there getting the money dispersed from EFC until that gets all cleared up. So just in case you hear anything in terms of a delay. 2 months ago, you authorized the mapping for section of basically along Vega Mountain Road up to the reservoirs here in Roxbury, and you also authorized the preliminary work for the mapping in Grand Gorge that would effectively fill in the gap of the mapping that you had for the 2 areas. So that got done. seemed to be touch and go with the way the leaves were coming out, but it got done in good time. So we got some good mapping, and we actually have the CAD files to start working on the piping up on Vega Mountain Road. Related to that, one of the other things we've been working with DOH on is the eligibility of both leak detection equipment and also water main location equipment. The water main location equipment is needed to identify where that main goes up through, across lots up there through the fields. That will help define where your existing easements are across private property. Because we asked Kevin Young's office, and they did some research on some of the easements. They turned the information over to us. We turned it over to our surveyor, and the description seemed pretty vague. And again, the recommendation of the surveyor is that we go and locate the pipe and then kind of back figure where the easements are. And that's going to tell us, do we have enough room on most people's property up there to keep the pipe, in or near the existing easement? Or are we better off getting that pipe out to the road like we had, back in the early winter, I think we started talking about this.
Right.
And that's kind of our two options, is move some or all of it out to the road, or I guess there was some thought too, just to keep it where it is.
Right. Well, we have,
within or next to the existing easement.
so as you're aware, we have one person that's looking to do an addition, and they need to know where the pipe is.
Exactly.
In relation to their house, so they can determine if they're gonna have to have it moved or how they're gonna deal with it, so.
Exactly. Now, again, Chris Mattice said that the equipment may not come till July, which it seems like everyone's gonna think.
Again, I think in that respect, and Chris, I see you're still on here. I know we've got some mapping to do, or we've got some leak detection work to do in Grand Gorge that we're gonna probably need rural water down here for again. It seems like we possibly could tie this into that and do it.
Correct, yes.
If you can coordinate with Chris, possibly.
Yes, we talked about having all three places done. I think it was Kevin's place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about having that in the two places in Grand Gorge that we know of, all done by the same person at the same time. It just makes sense to knock all three out at once instead of calling them back 3 times.
Have you talked to him yet, Chris?
No, I have not. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. We got to have the Grand Gorge the one by the Grand Gorge Civic Center dug up and fixed before we can even trace a line. The curb valve has to be dug up and repaired.
All right. So obviously we don't want to wait.
No.
We'll try to get this rolling as soon as possible.
Could I ask a dumb question? If we're moving that line, how does that affect the current people's water service lines that are hooked up?
Just like any water main replacement, you'd have to extend those services to get to wherever the new main is. Yes. So again, that's the advantage of keeping it close to where it is, if we can, except for that one place we know it has to be relocated.
Yeah.
Now if Kevin wants to do his house sooner than later, there may need to be a temporary relocation.
Well, I had a discussion with him the other day, and he's looking to.
I think
see
the
what needs to be
writing
done,
is on the wall for that. And
Yeah.
Even if we finish designing this thing tomorrow, we have to go out to bid, and by the time it got constructed, it would be.
Well, we may have to
fall.
do some temporary work there to accommodate what he's looking to do, but that's why I just want to make sure we're keeping it moving so that we stay on track with that.
Okay.
But do we have an easement for for that water main that goes through Kevin's property?
Well, that's what Alyssa was looking at that, and she dug up a lot of good documents that I forwarded to the surveyor, but unfortunately they're very, written very vaguely in terms of where they were or where they are.
Okay, but, and, one way or another, we probably have an easement, right? An easement by prescription or an easement by deed. And so it's like, if a person doesn't like where it is, it's not necessarily the water district's responsibility to move it.
Right, and I believe.
Pay for her to move it. Okay, yeah.
Well, I guess the first step is we need to figure out where it is, so that he can make a determination what he wants to do. So.
Right, Kevin, I believe from what people have told me, it might be 6 or 8 feet from the current foundation of the house.
That's my understanding too, but I guess that's what we're first looking to do, is confirm that, to figure out where we're.
Exactly. All right, so let's see. WQIP, Water Quality Improvement Project submission to DEC, which basically consisted of the existing a description of the existing conditions when we bought the property. Finally got submitted. Most of that delay was on us. DEC, once the information submitted and deemed acceptable, DEC will provide their share of the cost of the land purchase and easement purchase down there. As soon as you get that money, you send it to EFC though, because just EFC has already fronted that money.
Right.
So that's why I really wasn't in a big hurry to get this thing submitted. But anyway, that's just an update. Propane tank, Alan had somebody that might have been interested in.
Yeah, I have not talked to him.
Okay.
It was actually Macker, it was Mike Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
I discussed with him about the 2 propane tanks we need for up here at the project.
Yeah, because we're looking for a way to get a second quote.
Yeah, and I think he'd be willing to do that.
Okay, all right. If not, we'll.
If you just want to give me the specs on what the tanks need to be and stuff, something in an email I can forward to him.
Okay.
I'll just send it over to him and see if we can get a
And
quote
if that doesn't pan out, we'll brainstorm and try to find somebody else. Okay, item 2G is what we've been talking about, and as discussed, New York Rural Water will be. Chris will ask them to come and get the thing located.
I think that's the quickest
get
way
it
to
flagged,
do it.
and then we'll bring our surveyor in to map it to get it brought into the.
I think that's the quickest way, rather than waiting till we get this equipment and getting it geared up and figuring out how to use it.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of hoping we get something a little more definitive with the easements in terms of something that, but nothing panned out there. Okay, so the last item, if there's nothing else on Roxbury Grand Gorge, any questions on? One thing I skipped over is there's a project meeting scheduled, at least tentatively scheduled for Thursday, June 24th. I don't know, Alan, is that something you want to?
I'll try to attend if I can. If you want to see if you're going to do it.
Yeah, we'll make sure Chris Mattice is.
Yeah, if I'm available, I'll try to be there.
Yeah, we'll get you there. Anyone else? Okay. Good. All right, so that's that. Last item is just the amendment I've been mentioning for past couple reports here. Maybe it was just the last report. There we go. Okay, our current Current authorization on the project is $275,000. The, our original budget item in the original grant application indicated that engineering would be on the order of $525,000 for the project. So we've been trying to hold down costs and have kept, basically asked for authorization in increments thus far. But here we're basically at the point where we're heading toward the finish line of the project. We've got a lot of piping work to do, a lot of distribution improvements to consider in both districts. We've got the mapping project that we, in conjunction with operations, we're going to come up with a plan of attack, or excuse me, an inventory of your valves, your hydrants, your curb stops. There's going to be a fair amount of effort with that. So what we have is a request for increase of $200,000. Again, that brings us to a total of $475,000, which is $50,000 short of that original budget number in the grant application. And essentially, we're asking for $100,000 for design and bidding services related to the distribution improvements. $60,000 in additional services, which includes the monthly drawdown request assistance, plus mostly for more construction administration and observation. We're seeing that we were a bit optimistic with what we thought it would take to administer things with the well field. And given it's taken 4 months to get going, some budget's been expended, and we just, unfortunately, we need that replenished to keep rolling. A big chunk, $40,000, is for subcontracted services. The mapping that was authorized 2 months ago is a big chunk of that. Less so is some additional survey work, which we just talked about it here. The surveyor's going to need to go up and identify where that existing main is and get it brought into the design documents. In some of the water main replacements, there's probably some wetlands work that we're going to budget for at this point. And again, this is all time and materials. It's not, if we don't use it, we're not going to bill you for it. Couple relevant points, at least in my mind, is throughout the course of this whole thing, we have been using reduced billing rates for myself and some of the senior staff on the project. We note that on each of our invoices. We're going to hold our rates that I think were the 2018 rates, Kevin, through 2022. And before we got all started in this whole design phase, there was, since 2013, there's been about $15,000 of time where we kind of started this project, then stopped, never really billed, trying to get funding or whatnot to the tune of about $15,000 that we've never billed. So just factors to consider in terms of moving this forward. So yeah, I know it seems like a lot, but we could also do it in a few more steps as well. If it felt more comfortable, you guys are probably tired of reviewing these amendments. I'm probably tired of writing and coming and pleading, and so
You sound like a vampire every time you come in here. Okay.
So
just more blood.
yeah, it's I do think it's an important point that we're 50,000 less than what was identified originally, and
For now.
yeah, but
Yeah. Till next month.
Kevin, do you have any thoughts on this, or do you want to discuss it?
I just think that you shouldn't make a decision tonight. We should give it a huge amount of thought, that's all.
Okay. All right.
yeah, it's a big, honestly, yeah, it's a big number. It's
I think we'll discuss it.
I mean, you just got it today, right? I think.
we do have authorization to keep rolling on the distribution stuff.
We'll keep paying you.
Yeah, no, I just,
Yeah.
except, well, you'll pay me, but I can't submit these for disbursement.
understand.
So we can't let
I
it linger too long.
Yeah.
We've
No, I
been
just
more
think-
than happy to
No raises tonight. Get out of here.
more than happy to keep rolling as long as we're gonna move forward in good faith on this.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of this covers work that hasn't even been identified yet. Any work in Grand Gorge is budgeted with this, but it just hasn't been identified, so there's no way we're doing it.
Right, until we know.
So
what
these
we're
are,
going with it. Yeah, I understand.
in some ways,
This
this is a
something-
placeholder.
Right.
And in some ways, it would be easier with me with the MWBE stuff to go in at a lower number, but it might just be better to put it in and be done with it. So those are that's all I got to say.
Okay.
You're doing fine, Mike. You're doing absolutely fine.
My time okay?
You're good. We have to, actually,
You're 1 minute over. Get out of here.
thank you.
All
very
right.
much for coming down.
Kevin, any other questions that you have on that?
Does anybody
No.
have anything else for Mike?
All right.
Okay, we're good.
Good seeing you in person.
Likewise.
I just have one thing under old business. You guys remember last year we made an application with the DOT about the speed reduction for County Route 8. And I heard from Sue McIntyre that is still pending. It looks like it'll be approved shortly. If you recall, we're gonna reduce the speed limit on County Route 8, Star Hill Road, from, is it George Lawrence Road, I think, down to
The bridge.
Howard Bridge, because of issues with the pool at the bottom and just the residential nature of that section.
Yep.
With that being said, we have also had requests from a couple of residents concerning County Highway 41 that we're gonna need to discuss, concerning reducing the speed on County 41. You've got a letter in there addressing that. And also previously, we've had some requests about Lower Meeker Hollow Road. We considered possibly to lower the speed on that. Just if everybody recalls, the state speed limit is set for town roads at 55 miles an hour unless it's reduced. And the process to reduce that is if it's a county road, the town makes a resolution and then they request from the county that be reduced. It also has to be approved through the state DOT. And if it's a town road, we still have to get it approved through the state DOT to have that speed reduction in place. So we have a couple other things to discuss concerning the other roads, but just wanted to give you a heads up that's in the works.
For Upper Meeker Hollow or Lower Meeker Hollow, did we figure out where they want from the start of it all the way to Platicille, or?
Well, I think that
Did we
was
find
the
out?
discussion that we gotta look into a bit more. We did look into it. A few people mentioned that on Lower Meeker Hollow Road, there was some speed reduction signs there already, but actually that's not true. There may be signs there, but they were not legally installed. It's not listed by the county or the DOT or anybody as a reduction, as a reduced speed zone. It's still the full speed that it is, so. The process is the same for any road that we do that. We have to go through the DOT to get approval to do that. And it is, as you can see, kind of a lengthy process. We started the process for County Route 8 last year in the fall, and they're still not finalized yet, so it does take a while.
How far did Dawn want to go down on County Route 41?
Well, I
All the
think
way to the motel?
10 feet by your driveway. That's it.
The discussions the discussion that's been had, as you know, it's a 30-mile zone already from right there by where that, the sign is all the way to, or to Main Street.
Yep.
And that's already set at 30 miles an hour. The problem is, the rest of it is set at 55. And the thought was to go from Stratton Falls, where the Roxbury building is, and then reduce that to like 45, all the way to where it goes down to 30.
If you can't enforce what you've got already, there's no
That
sense
is an
in
issue.
doing
Enforcement is
anything
an
else.
issue, and I agree with that, and that's something we need to consider as well. So. You can set the speed limit whatever you want, but if it can't be enforced, it doesn't make a lot of sense, so.
Not to waste the time and energy.
So it's something to consider. As I said, we do have a lot of, especially with the wedding
The
venue
side
and
road
stuff,
by your house.
we have a lot of traffic on that road.
Yeah, paintball gun's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Don one of them, since he can tag people who don't do that.
Okay, with that being said, moving on, does anybody have anything else, from the board? We have a couple other letters from the board. We have had some discussion. The Friends of Roxbury group would like us to sponsor using the existing. Night, everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Diane. I know you've had more conversations about this than I have, but they're looking to request that we use the existing flag holders there to develop a Roxbury flag to be put up there when we're not using the American flags, like during parades and things like that.
As long as it's not Legion flag holders.
That again requires a permit both from NYSEG and the DOT if we put those flags up there. The brackets are existing. I guess they were installed by the Rotary many years ago. So I don't know what we're still looking into what the permitting is gonna be required if we put different flags on there. But,
Well, I
maybe
think
you can-
you'd still have to put the permits in even though the
Right.
holders are still there. because
Right.
Now they're gonna be up all most of the year.
to use them and put them up there in the summer.
I'll double check with Rob Caddy.
Yeah, so that's an ongoing thing. Again, we're not ready to make a resolution on that, but that's the.
What are the
We can
flags,
make a
Alan?
resolution, I'll just check with them if you want.
Okay, we can do that if you want. That's fine. I'm good with it.
This is what it says, right?
Something like that, yeah. They're gonna do a triangle flag or a flag that goes up, so it's kind of on the angle with the American flags, but it'll say something like that. What's that? We did get a letter from Edie Misek thanking us for all the Roxbury cleanup, and I think a lot of that goes to the Friends of Roxbury group. I'd like to
No,
publicly
the
say that.
highway. So,
And the highway guys were picking up all the stuff that it was done. They had
Gotta get done that Sunday.
they had an organized group, and I would like to publicly thank the Friends of Roxbury and everybody that participated in that project. It was very worthwhile, and very helpful. And it was other people besides just the one group, but a lot of people participated locally, and it was great to see the support. If there's no other comments from residents, anything at this time, we do have to do an executive session to discuss some contractual issues and one employee issue that we need to discuss, so. What I'd like to do is enter into an executive session. Jess, if you can put everybody in the waiting room except Kevin, I believe. I don't think anybody else needs to.
Hey Al, can I just, there's a couple resolutions on there that might be answered by me. Can we go through them quick?
Sure, if you'd
This
rather
way.
do that, Bill, that's fine.
This
Yep.
way then I'll
Okay,
go
yep,
through them quick. There's like a
sure, we
handful.
can do that.
And any
Yeah, I
if
don't wanna
anybody
hold
has any questions for them, I can
Sure.
answer promptly. Like the agreement to spend highway money, that
Yes.
if anybody has any questions on that, I can answer.
We have a resolution and you've all received a package with a list of the roads that were paved.
I had a
Bill
brief
talked
on
about
this.
some of them in his comments. We do have to have a resolution that has to be, everybody has to sign that individually, by the way, so before you leave tonight, we need to sign that. But I do need a resolution to accept that, the expenditure of highway monies.
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And just of note on that, we have also been advertising, we have 2 vacancies now, I believe, on the highway crew.
Yeah, one right now, in September, there'll be a second vacancy.
Okay,
The guy who had actually was interested in one of them. Got a hold of me, and he just can't afford to come here right now. The money he's making, the insurance that he's got right now, health insurance. So,
Okay.
So it's still 2 vacancies.
All right. Anything else for Bill? Was that the only two, I think?
Van Aiken Road.
Oh, I'm
Mike,
sorry. I missed
Anything?
that one.
Any questions on that?
This was actually suggested to us by the county. We've been back and forth with the city. Right now, our highway mileage goes all the way to the sewer treatment plant. And they
Right.
suggested that we reduce the mileage to just past the farm. Because the rest of that, through some agreements that we found, was actually already under the control of the city. When those roads were actually built, when the plant was built back in the 30s or whatever it was. There was some documentation that they were all city roads, not.
So pretty much the reduction from 0.55 miles to 0.28 miles.
So.
Does that mean that you stop plowing there and turn around at that point?
No,
or
that's means we charge
Less.
from that point to we charge New York
No,
City.
charge is same,
Okay.
it's just he needs
Yeah.
to take it off his mileage.
Right.
So we need a resolution for that as well. Somebody,
I'll make that.
a second?
I'll second it.
All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I guess that's it.
that's it, Bill?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like the resolution to go into executive session.
Make that resolution.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we need a motion to come out of executive session, back into regular session.
I make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna move on to resolutions. And then we can go home. First is a resolution for town clerk monthly report, supervisor's monthly report, assessor's monthly report for April and May, I guess, and building inspector's monthly report, water district monthly report, justice court monthly report.
May.
What's that?
May,
Okay,
I don't think she did one for April, or I guess
okay.
this covered May.
And Parks Department status report for May and June. Like a resolution for all of those together?
I'll make that.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we do have a subject, I guess is the best word to put it, for the planning board. Kevin DePodwin, I sent you each a copy of his information earlier today. Kevin has expressed an interest. He's met with Phil. He also met with me about it. I think he'd be a good addition to the planning board. He does have quite a lot of municipal experience.
You talk to him.
Yeah, and if you look at his resume, you can see he's got a rather lengthy municipal history. So he is interested in helping carry his weight, and I think we'd love to have him. So I need a resolution for that.
I'll make that.
A second? Have a second?
Second.
Ed, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the Catskill Recreation Center, I've had a conversation with her. I don't have a resolution ready yet, but what they would like us to do, and I just want to bring it out to the board, is she suggested doing a program where we can sponsor swimming lessons for both youth or adult classes. And she was gonna get me a proposal or an idea of, based on the money, whatever, I can't remember the exact amount, it was 2,200 or something. 2,500 that we approved originally to do this. And what they had thought is they would stretch it farther by going maybe 50% reduction in cost for somebody that wants swimming lessons, whether adult or kids. The reason for also having kids involved, most of the kids locally do their swimming lessons through Mindkill, through the school program, but in case there are other ones. And this would be for Roxbury residents. Right, so if everybody's good with that,
I'd make the motion.
we can make a motion and I'll move forward with the details with her. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have resolution for the consolidated fundings. I believe we did both of
Yeah, we
those.
did that.
Yeah, we did those.
We aren't ready for Denver sewer.
No, that's a no,
right?
that's a not ready. We have a resolution for, I sent you guys a copy of an RFP we put together for redesign of our town website. I sent it back earlier in the month. I just need a resolution that it's okay to put that out for update our website. We got a grant from O'Connor almost a year ago now, a $5,000 grant. So that would be matched, whatever the amount turns out to be, would be a matching grant.
I make the motion.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
And that will go out. And we talked about the sign permits for DOT, for the flags on the Roxbury Hamlet. I believe Grand Gorge is working through their community action group for something similar in Grand Gorge. I don't know if we need to sponsor that. I understand they were talking with Joe about that, but I haven't heard anything
Nobody said anything to
officially.
me about Grand Gorge.
So I thought they were looking at doing something up there as well. But anyway, if we can pass a resolution on that, Diane will work with whatever, details need to be worked out, so.
Well, apparently, if we're doing it, Grand Gorge needs to do it.
Right.
We
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
combine Grand
No.
Gorge in this.
We can't,
The Friends of Roxbury doing this, right?
but aren't we sponsoring it as a town though?
Can't we do Grand Gorge and Roxbury?
That's what the resolution is for, is if you're gonna sponsor their request to put flags on Main
So
Street.
why don't we make it a resolution for both Roxbury Hamlet and Grand Gorge Hamlet?
In case they need,
And if they decide, if they.
if they
work
need
it out,
sponsorship for permits and
right,
stuff.
for both of them, we
Yeah,
would
for both
sponsor it.
of them.
Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of dumb. you know.
Yeah, no, I agree, I agree.
As long as they get me the information.
You get right on Joe's crap.
Well, they never heard about it.
Well, that's up to them.
It'll be approved this year.
People don't realize how much time is involved in putting the permits together.
It is a lot of work. Diane spends a lot of time on that. I can attest to it because I've sat there and watched it. There's a lot that goes into
All
it.
right, so I make the resolution, that's what we do.
Okay, second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
You had a quote from Richie Davis to do work for repairs to the Civic Center. We need to memorialize that with a resolution.
I'd make that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a resolution for the pre-approved bills, which we're given the list, I believe.
I didn't get any sort of bill on the truck, so are they willing to wait for another month? Or, I mean, I don't know
I mean,
what
we
to
can
do.
include.
Yeah, that was kinda funny that it just sent it and no,
Well, if they're gonna put in the mail, they can wait for another month. We had to wait for a truck, right?
Yeah, he said it's in the middle.
Checks in the mail.
So the check's in the mail, the bill's in the mail, the check's in the mail. Let's wait until next month.
It's fine with me. Whatever everybody's comfortable with.
I don't think they got the truck, but by the time they get the bill in the next week or so, then they can wait.
I know Kevin dropped off, so we're
If there's a
gonna,
problem with the truck, they
Yeah.
get paid.
you got a month to play with it.
Better to save our money than their money.
so we're gonna hold off on that then for now for the truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can still approve pre-approval, cause I
Yeah.
had the water project.
Yeah, I need a resolution to approve that,
We're not putting the truck in the,
not including the truck.
no, okay.
Okay. That's not on there now, so.
Yeah.
So I need a resolution for that in a second.
I'll make the resolution.
Second.
All in favor? We don't have anybody to fill the highway vacancy, so that's gotta be tabled. Lamont Engineering Contract Amendment, we talked about that when Mike was here.
Table next month, right?
Well,
Sounds
either
like
table it or authorize me to sign it once they've come up with an agreement.
Well, Kevin wanted it held till you review it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he
Yes,
All right.
you said lots of, you said lots of review.
Hold to review.
And he's off, so we'll just hold it till next month for review.
That upgrade to the 475, is that for like a year contract? How
As long as
long?
the money holds out.
Well, yeah,
So,
And what happens when the, so that's, can I just ask, like, what happens when the district runs out of money?
This is for the next stage of
Right.
the work.
See, the way this project
You
was
heard
put
it
out,
called vampire, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He said the increases of going in 2022, the price increase for.
I've never seen them finish a project with much support.
right. But the project, the first part of this was all what we did to the water system, but the grant was bigger than that. And we knew from the beginning we had extra money in there to make some of these other improvements and changes, like doing this water main, and there's some other things we want to connect. And their proposal is, do we do all of that, or do we do part of that amount and stretch it out? Or, I guess that's something we need to discuss with
And
Kevin
we,
and let him
and
review
we've
it.
held them, like last year, we held them to they didn't have a big,
2018 prices.
yeah, they didn't have a big increase last year. And I think we held that until this coming.
Yeah, and I don't think they're looking to increase their fees as much as they are.
Yeah, they
just
are,
need-
because now that's what he's trying to do
Well,
now.
that's why I say we
Jump
need to look
ahead.
into that a little bit more.
Don't
Okay,
matter whether you get it in dollar amounts
Yeah.
or.
so we're gonna table that for this time.
It's all the same amount of money.
All right, we did the Van Aken Road. We have a resolution for a liquor license application to waive the 30-day hold for Watershed Inc. It's just the Watershed Cafe up here. They're looking to do a wine
Make the
and beer bar.
resolution, it's the waive it.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we discussed earlier this Umansky water hookup. We would need a resolution to allow that pending review by the city and approval. And the water,
That's what the resolution says.
and I need a resolution for that.
I'll make that.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next two resolutions are discussing speed reduction. I know we've had some discussion about this. What's your favor? Do you want to table this until we get some more
Well, you need
information?
to identify the specific area
Right. We
for the
need to,
resolution.
for the application, we would need to identify the mileage and the actual location. So
Table the resolution.
table it for now. Okay. I think that makes more sense at this point. Everybody in agreement with that?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay. This New York Stretch Energy Code, you guys got a big thick thing about that. It's basically just in a nutshell, it's a change that New York State is looking to do to the building code, and they're looking for towns to adopt it. At the end of the day, from everything we've heard and discussed, it looks like it's going to, I guess towns have the option to use the existing code or go to this.
It's gonna cost us more money.
It's gonna cost, the estimates right now, from what I understand, are between 10 and 15,000 on increase on the cost of building construction to meet these codes.
We're trying to help people get here.
Yeah, I kinda, so that's, basically, we need to look into this much more before we make any decisions. I think that should, in my opinion, would be to table.
Town is not in favor of it either. There's a lot of hidden things in there.
Yeah, it's a,
Shoot that in the round basket, okay?
that's something that needs a lot more looking, I think, before we decide to do it.
Diane's round filing cabinet, where is it?
We discussed earlier about the zero usage things. We need to spend some time and effort getting these resolved. And so I don't think we need a motion on that at this point, other than that Chris is working on it.
We just charging them like the 84 or whatever, what it used to be, or?
Well, we're charging them whatever the minimum is
Yeah.
per year, and then, but
That's
some of
all we
these
can
are,
charge 'em.
and the problem is we don't know what the usage is on a lot of these. And some of them are damaged meters, some of them are not hooked up right. Chris found one, they had the meter installed to the hot water line in the house, not so it was, when it did read, it was only reading the hot water side of the usage.
Our Grand Gorge usage meter isn't even working down here at the other end of town.
Right, well, that's being replaced, that's actually in the works, but it's a problem for Diane, and I know she's putting a lot of time in dealing with these things, and every month there's
Well, and the district is out the money.
And we're losing the money on it.
You know
so.
what?
It's not fair.
Add 10% aggravation fees, Diane. I'll make the motion.
But it is an issue we've got to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we had these under control like last year, pretty much.
No, there's been a lot of them.
Now it's all back to that bullshit again.
It's been.
How come they're all in Grand Gorge?
They're not.
Oh,
They're not. No, they're all over. You've received copies of the water project costs to date for the two projects, Denver and Roxbury Grand Gorge Water. You received the water quality reports. We got copies of all of those from the health department. I think that's all I've got, unless anybody, Diane, did we have anything else that we need to discuss about this? I will say Diane and I had a conversation, I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, about a lot of these outstanding building permits. And it's something, again, that we need to address. Diane is willing to work with us on it, but we're gonna have to figure out what we need to do and how it's gonna work.
Here you go. I thought I was under understanding a year or so ago that we were going to just back out like 10 years or something and move forward.
The very old ones, that's what you're talking about.
Well,
We haven't sent out,
That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about. I thought,
but we're talking about the ones, nothing that has been done for the past 3 years.
okay, but didn't we set something for the old
The
ones?
ancient ones.
Right.
So those are, yeah, that's not this. This
It's up
is,
to you on how far you wanna go back.
But now we've got ones that are being pain in the ass for like 3-4 years.
well, they're not a pain, they just have never been sent out for the past 3 years.
We've never sent a letter out, a reminder.
No
letter that these
renewals
buildings
have
are-
gone out.
There's been no renewals, but there's also.
So we're out a lot of money,
How long's Tommy been building inspector?
about 3 years. We're owed a lot of money.
That's what I thought when he.
We are owed a lot of money.
He was starting
Isn't
to,
that his job, not
It is.
your job?
he was cleaning some of those up to begin with.
No.
Yeah, I thought he was doing
Never
a great
happened.
job with this.
Well,
Never happened.
what is happening is that Tommy has 5 towns that he works for.
I don't want to hear
And
that.
the bottom line is that's why he's not getting it done. I mean,
That's
to be
fine, but
realistic about
I'm
it,
getting
we
a
know
little
what
bit,
it is,
I'm
but-
just getting a little bit tired of every time something happens here, it gets thrown on to her.
Well, no,
Or
it shouldn't.
To her.
It shouldn't.
This is getting to be, do your job or don't do it. Okay, and that's what I think, just being vocal here, Alan.
Yeah.
You gotta have a talk with Tommy, whether he's
Yeah.
gonna do his
Well,
job.
what I'd like
or
to do,
Find somebody
and-
else.
I would like to have Tommy come in for a meeting and sit down and go through this and discuss it. And have a couple of you guys, or one of you, Macker, if you wanna sit in with
Well,
it.
I'd be more than happy to sit in.
We'll discuss it with Tom and see if we can work through a solution for this. And I'd also like to have Diane and Stephanie possibly.
And if I could say that, you know, at that meeting, Alan, I would love it for, and I've actually stopped talking about it because you're sick of hearing from me, but I'm gonna start talking about it again, and I'm gonna bring it up again now. You know, I report to you almost every month about building projects that are going on in the town with no permits. I send him pictures, I send you pictures, and close your eyes and what do you see? So why should anybody get a permit if there's no enforcement?
Once again.
So, you know,
That's the
it's
biggest
not
problem.
fair, and you know what, so basically what that means is that everybody that is building without a permit, everybody else is paying their fair share in taxes, and it's not fair. So it's all about treating everybody the same. If you get a permit, then I know that you did it, and so if your assessment goes up $10, it goes, but if you don't get the permit that I don't get a copy of, then I cannot, my inventory on your property becomes out of date, and you are not paying your fair share.
And
So
I-
why should anybody get a permit? Because there's no enforcement.
And I agree 100% with you. I agree 100%, and I've heard this crap for the last year or
Well,
so.
I think
badly.
I think.
It's
we
getting
need to-
worse.
Yep, and I think what we need to do is we need to sit down with Tommy, explain what the problem, and talk through it first and see if there's a way we can resolve it. If
Either
not,
that, we're either gonna
look
have
at
to, and the bottom line is, Alan, we're either gonna have to have a replacement or a deputy to help him maybe. I don't know.
Right, and
You
that's
I don't
some of
know.
the options that we need to look into is,
And that's something we can talk about, but it's gotta happen because we're losing money.
so you're willing to.
We're losing money.
We
you
are,
willing to be
plain and
the
simple,
liaison from
twice.
the board to sit in on that?
Christ,
I heard you say yes once. I'm just gonna make sure it's clear in the minutes.
As long as I don't have to deal with STRs, yes, I'll be a liaison.
Remember, we are still in a public meeting here, folks.
That's fine. I have no problem voicing my opinion
Okay.
when it comes to this.
All right, so Macker will work with me and with Diane, and we will sit down with Tommy and we'll go through this and
Absolutely.
figure out where we're gonna go with it and report back to the board. With all that to be said, I need a motion to pay the bills. You went over them and Ed?
I'd make
Everything's all
that
good?
motion, I guess, we're taking the contractors out and, the barn, that wasn't in there.
Oh, for the old contractor. Yes, that's not until, that is pending Kevin's, review.
No, Kevin, he sent us an email on it that, we're supposed to be paying the difference.
I think he wanted to before,
Read the contract again.
yeah, he wanted to review it and talk with this contractor before we actually make the payment, so.
Oh, cause he just
Yeah.
told me today in an
That
email
was just
that
as
I
of
was
a few
supposed to do
minutes
the
ago.
difference.
You know, I saw the email too, that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was
So
wondering
we're
about.
pulling the JCA
Yes,
voucher?
for now, yeah.
until the guy's in agreement of payment.
Pending his agreement to the proposed payment amount.
Well, you know he's not gonna agree to it.
Well, that's,
Well,
that is,
That's the plan forward that
Right.
Kevin just told him.
I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, can we go back to the 0 meters? Can the district send out letters to those people to say,
I do.
oh,
We do
okay,
every
so,
month.
but can we enforce that? I mean,
trying, that's what I said. Chris is now, he's ordered a bunch of new meters. He's starting to go one by one on these and try to figure out what the issues are, whether the meter needs to be changed or whether it needs to be updated.
I mean, are there fines that, does the water district have fines in the bylaws that when people are not in compliance, or, like, what's the,
Are the people at fault, or is it the meters or the hookup?
Well, when nobody responds to the letters I send.
yeah, I mean, so, it's like crickets, so,
I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them that people are not even
yeah,
responding.
and
that's
they're
the
not
ones we
responding,
need to
so
shut down.
can't, so the next question is, like, what's the legal, if the people just ignore the district,
we don't have to pay it.
that's what I'm saying, can't we?
I said, the answer is you go turn the water
Go
off.
away, or we don't pay them.
I mean, that's truly our recourse, if somebody's not paying their bill.
I think it would get their
Well,
attention.
now- but now
Yeah, but now because of the
can't.
COVID thing, we can't.
You're right,
Cause now you're under the situation
yeah.
too of, now you've got the
Yeah.
new law that the governor just signed in, which is basically an extension of last year's law where you cannot shut any utilities
Not
off.
until, what is it?
Until it expires next year.
I think
Right,
I
right.
think it's extended to
And
December
I'm
of
sure that would
2022.
probably play into that.
So, yes. So. But we're gonna make an attempt to see what we can do to correct those issues.
So Ed made the motion,
I'll
and we're gonna pull the
second.
JCA.
Most
Yeah.
of it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to go home.
I make the motion.
Hey, Moon's, I second it, third, fourth, fifth, and fifth.
Why?
4 minutes over my allotted time limit. Jessica, thank you very much for your help.
Yes.
No problem. I'll get the video up on the government page tomorrow
Okay.
or the next day.
And you'll send that to Craig for his, to post on the website as
Yes,
well?
I will. I'll do that.
Okay, great. Thank you all, much appreciated.